Alright, y'all, so look, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about what's next for the middleweight division and basically who's next in queue, who's next in line for that middleweight strap. Basically this video is being made right after UFC 297 Strickland versus Duplessis. Dricus Du Plessis is now our newest middleweight champion of the world, and basically in this video we're going to be talking about what's next for the middleweight division, what's the future for the middleweight division, and who's next in line, what fights can they make right after UFC 297, and yeah, let's get right on into it. So first things first, we're going to be starting with our breakdown. Dricus Du Plessis is now our middleweight champion of the world. The fight between him and Sean Strickland was a barn burner, absolute brawl. Both of them put their body on the line for that fight, but I don't think they sustained extensive damage. I don't think they sustained too much damage during that fight. So I want to see everybody mentioned in this video to fight on UFC 300. All the middleweights that I'm going to be including in this video have to be included in UFC 300. You know, the middleweights that fought not too long ago in UFC 297 did not sustain too much damage, and then, you know, the other middleweights have been out of the sport for a little bit, so I think all of them can make a really good comeback for UFC 300. For my next point, I low-key think Dricus Du Plessis needs to rematch Sean Strickland. That fight was razor close by a fucking thread, by a hair. That fight was so close, dude. I had Strickland winning the first, second, and fifth round, and 1000% gave Dricus Du Plessis the third round and the fourth round. But you can possibly give that third round to Strickland, but verbatim, I gave Du Plessis the third and fourth round. Strickland the 1, 2, and 5. Crazy, went to split decision. I mean, not crazy, super close fight, but my honest opinion, I think Sean Strickland won that fight, and a lot of the MMA community thinks so too. That's why I think, you know, because these guys didn't really sustain any brutal damage, just, you know, external damage, you know, the face, little bruises, little cuts. I think this fight should be rebooked for UFC 300, or I'm gonna get into that next, or, you know, we can give them some new matchups and, you know, these other matchups that I'm going to mention on during the video. Next up, there are no real contenders in the middleweight division as of right now. So look, as of right now, you know, we just had this fight, UFC 297, Strickland versus Du Plessis. Du Plessis is now our newest champion. Basically, Sean Strickland goes from our champion to now our number one contender. So he's basically number one in the division. I say if you don't want to rebook these guys for a rematch, you know, maybe you wouldn't want them to rematch because, you know, this is Strickland's first defense and he lost, but this was a razor thin close fight. If this fight didn't go as close as it did, then there wouldn't be any argument or any reason to rematch, but it did. So I think a rematch is super valid, but if you don't want to make a rematch, I think you should book Dricus Du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya for UFC 300. I think a fight between Israel Adesanya and Du Plessis has been a long time coming. They already have that African beef. Dricus Du Plessis is from South Africa, and Israel Adesanya is from Nigeria. There's already beef there. Dana White in the post-fight press conference said that if they were to make this fight had to be in South Africa. So if they don't even fight in UFC 300, I think this fight could be in South Africa, the first fight to happen in Africa. That would be absolutely bonkers. And I low-key got Israel Adesanya winning that fight, in my opinion. I'm not gonna cap. You know what I mean? I honestly think that Dricus Du Plessis, Sean Strickland, and Israel Adesanya, it's like a game of rock, paper, scissors. Obviously, Strickland beat Adesanya. You know what I mean? You know, Dricus Du Plessis just beat Sean Strickland, and I think Israel Adesanya can beat Dricus Du Plessis for that belt. So a fight between the two of them would be an absolute banger of a fight. For my next point, Jared Cannonier. I think Jared Cannonier should be in the talks for a title shot contention, but he is injured. I think it's a leg injury or something like that, some type of injury. But, you know, the thing is about Jared Cannonier that a lot of people aren't talking about is that he isn't really like a needle mover. You know what I mean? We got Izzy, we got Hamza, we got Sean. These are all talkers, all big fan followings, basically superstars of the fight game. Jared Cannonier isn't a superstar, but he's been on a roll. He's actually beaten Sean Strickland, and nothing's really came from that. I think he deserves his shot, but I doubt UFC would actually give him his shot. A fight between Jared Cannonier or anybody else would not make any type of numbers, so it's super risky to make. But for my next point, Hamza. So look, this is the thing about Hamza. Hamza Chamay has just went up in weight class, and he is now a middleweight. He was formerly a welterweight, but is now a middleweight. But for his second middleweight fight, he fought a welterweight in Kamaru Usman, who was going up in weight class for 10 days notice. But in his newest interview with Brent Okamoto from UFC, Hamza states that the UFC has been holding him back from being active, and it's not weight, visa, or nothing of that sort. It's all the UFC. So basically, Hamza Chamay, the reason why Hamza Chamay isn't active right now is because of the UFC. It's not because he's not able to make weight, visa issues, or nothing. I think Hamza Chamay is ready for UFC 300. If you don't want to make that fight, I personally don't want to feed Hamza to the wolves as of right now. I still think he needs to fight a middleweight contender before we throw him to a title shot. But you know what I mean, Hamza Chamay is a needle mover, insane superstar. This fight would go insanely big, do insane numbers. I think it would be a really good fight, but it wouldn't be a warranted fight, meritocracy and everything. He's only fought once in the middleweight division, and it wasn't even against a real middleweight. But then again, it wasn't even his fault, because Paulo Costa was actually his original fight, but Paulo Costa stepped out because of an infection, an injury. So you really couldn't blame that on Hamza in the long run. And so for my last bullet, I got Israel Adesanya. I've already gone into this a little earlier on, but I think a fight between Dricus Du Plessis and Israel Adesanya would do absolute numbers. It would be an absolute banger. A fight between these two African kings, you know what I mean? They're both African. That's already a storyline. The fight between Dricus Du Plessis and Robert Whittaker, the post-fight press conference, the beef, that storyline is already there. And a fight between the two of them at UFC 300 or in Africa would do insane numbers. I think all of these fights are super entertaining, well-placed, balanced fights that you can make. If I were to rank them, I'd say rematch with Sean Strickland, a fight with Izzy at UFC 300 or in Africa, a fight with Hamza. We need Hamza to fight an actual middleweight contender first, and then you give him to the wolves. And then a fight with Jared Cannonier. I don't know if no one really likes. Jared Cannonier is really, he's cool, but he's not a needle mover, man. We don't really want to see him fight. But yeah, that wraps up this video. This video was just basically just trying to foresee the future for the middleweight division in the UFC. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.